here. I'm going to kind of give my perspective on it first and then let you run with it. But
Yeah.
for need-aware schools, how much does the need of a family factor into their admissions decision? Now, the first answer is, like I've said at the very beginning of the presentation, depends on the school, right? And that we say that for admissions, financial aid, and everything. But and again, this is from kind of where I sit, and then I'll let Brian, talk about his perspective on it. But by and large, for need-aware schools, the people that choose not to check that box of applying for financial aid go into a different pile, okay? And they may get a little bit of a curve in terms of the admission decision, yay or nay. And obviously being a little bit of an advantage, well, all else being equal, this family is paying full sticker price. Now, another thing that we'll always coach up our clients on, if we don't check that box that we're applying for financial aid, we're making that commitment for 4 years. We don't get to come back next year and say, oh, we changed our mind, we're applying for financial aid. Unless you can prove something drastic happened, you're saying I will pay full sticker price for all 4 years. So that's $75,000 school. We're saying we're comfortable if we get admitted paying $300,000. Okay. And so I think for again, need-aware schools, the general answer we give is like most people get in or don't get in based on their credentials. It's those bubble families where they may look at, well, this one, we would have to give them $20,000 in financial aid. This one, 5, this one, 40. Let's take the one that makes our margins better. So that's kind of how I usually answer the question. And again, the big one is depends on the school, depends on the student. Of course, if they're a lesser student and you're paying full sticker price, it's kind of like going ED. You have an advantage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it also, that's where a situation like early action could be an advantage too, because if you are a student that, maybe you're going to apply for financial aid, but you're not going to get a ton, you might get a little, they might still be willing to admit you earlier on in the process. Whereas it gets later on in the process, it might be a little more difficult for you to have that haggle room because they've already taken the chance on a few of those kids. So it definitely comes down to, I always encourage all of our families, regardless of their situation, to apply for financial aid for exactly what you said, because you're essentially taking a 4-year leap that nothing is going to happen with your family unless it's really drastic in the case of a parent losing a job or someone, going on disability or something like that, where your situation changes so much that you can make that case. But as we, and that unfortunately hit a lot of families, even with the recession in 2008, and that parents didn't lose jobs, but maybe they were getting a freeze on pay. That still wasn't necessarily the best reason to change a financial aid situation, especially when schools were looking at comparative situations where one or both parents completely lost their jobs. And so we all hope that doesn't happen again anytime soon, but at the same time, if something that outside of a force was going to affect your financial situation, you want to make sure you're applying every year just to cover your bases anyway. When looking at the admission side, it really comes down to the individual student and the individual school. What are the needs of the school at that time can play a role too. So say you're applying to a larger school, it's not just the app pool. They need to have equal distribution amongst all of their schools and colleges. So, maybe one of your buddies who has the same financial situation as you applies to their school of hospitality management and their numbers are a little down. So they might be more willing to spend the money on that kid than you who applied to their school business that they make those numbers every year. They don't need to take chances on those kids. And so it really can depend on the school, whereas if you both just apply to a school that's just one college or university is smaller, they're probably going to look at you side by side and try to make the decision of can the student be admissible here first, and then second, because they are need aware, can we afford it as an institution?
Yeah, it's a tricky one where I wish I could just give a definitive answer that applies to everybody, and it's just so sticking hard.